coffee and tidbits with a morning quip. News, notes, giggles, cut like a knife.
Well, good Friday, everybody, and I am so excited again because climbing down off his high atop his mountain, we have the diverse and wonderful human being coming to us from San Francisco, Robert Mills. How you doing, Robert?
Good morning, Randy. Delightful as always to be with you in this wonderful podcast. Thank you.
Well, this is going to be a great 1 hour time spent because Robert has sent me just tons of pictures of his past week attempting to climb a mountain where he ran into a little bit of snow, which was funny the week before. He says, I got to get out of here early to go up that mountain before the snow comes. My question to him was about a week ago, do you think that weather forecast is really that accurate? And you're going to get in and done.
Well, as a pilot, I flew my lawyers around all over the country with a class action law firm, and I did it recreationally. So I was relying on forecast all the time. And also, I've been climbing mountains since I was second grade, and I started relying on these forecasts or looking at them years and years, decades and decades ago. And it is surprising how inaccurate they are. And you think I would learn this lesson, but
No.
for this trip, I left early and went up there. I went 5 miles up this mountain, and have a base camp. I'm ready to climb Mount Agassiz, named after this great Swiss-born American geologist from Harvard. Discovered all stuff about glaciers. And I mean, great zoologist. And I got ready to climb it, and I wake up on this Monday, and there's a blizzard. I'm in a tent up there, and the wind was blowing 60 miles an hour, shaking the tent.
I'm shocked. I'm shocked and appalled. And there's gambling in the back room, and they couldn't find any water in the desert either. I don't know what the hell is going on.
Well, I have an interesting podcast for you, Ray. I'm gonna share the pictures with you about these fall dramatic. I hit the colors at peak, as you can see. They're spectacular. And and I think it's really breathtaking. There were some flowers, these gorgeous lakes, as you can see, towering peaks covered with ice and snow. And I'm also going to tell you on this podcast about a lot of new lightweight outdoor equipment that's available right now that wasn't available just a few years ago. Technology has zoomed along here, not just in computers and cell phones and things like that, but it's moved along in outdoor equipment. And I'm going to share some of that with you. And so those of you who may be thinking about, maybe I'll go out and enjoy the beauty of the outdoors and the inspiration and camping, maybe not even camping, just hiking. There's all this stuff available that I'm going to quickly just dash through it, and you'll be amazed.
Let me just give a little hint to our wonderful listeners. If you ever now, he's putting a backpack on, carrying all this stuff. I've never seen him go up a mountain with people following him, as you see in the movies occasionally over in the Serengeti, possibly. But everything goes into a big backpack, meaning he carries now a tent with an extra room. He has a nice little stove with a chimney. He carries a baby grand piano, a full orchestra, and a change of clothes for a month. Some of that's a lie, some of it's true. But the chimney and the furnace and the extra room and all the things he's going to talk about, I've seen the pictures, and you will too. Quite remarkable. And so I am going to be as entertained as you folks are, because I'm just going to sit back and let Robert Mills, our favorite storyteller, who has climbed 56 of the top 57. Do I get that right? 56 of the top 57. I know.
That's correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Dang it. It's just amazing. And he does it at the youthful age of 38. And again, 38.
A little more than that.
Same as me. I'm 38. Along with
I feel 38.
Yeah, half of us
on the inside looking out, it's still at 38.
There you go. All right, Robert. We're sitting back. I got a cup of coffee, and we're waiting for this wonderful story to unfold.
All right. Well, I'm going to share with you this equipment. I'm going to, show and tell of my new toys, and they're available to you. And I'm hoping that you'll take to heart this and get some stuff in wherever you can afford. It's not that expensive, and spend some time out getting the inspiration of nature. It's really good for you. It's good for your mental health. It's good for your physical health. And you can, even if you just take some long hikes in the woods or in nature. When I was in second grade, my father started taking me mountain climbing in North Carolina. I mean, we just went hikes on these little big hills in some cases in Western North Carolina, out of a little town called Morganton. And he inspired me. He was passionate about it, and it infected me, and I kept that passion my whole life of climbing. And I urge parents out there to take your children outdoors. I mean, it doesn't have to be mountain climbing. It can be bicycling or horseback riding or visiting museums or going to music concerts, whatever your passions are. Because when you share those fun times with your kids, you'll make these wonderful fond memories that your children will never, it will be with them for the rest of their life. And it will give them inspirations and passions that they can pursue as well. Okay. So I went on when I left home, and I continued climbing, and I had partners, and I climbed peaks, as I mentioned, all over the US and Canada, Europe, Alaska, New Zealand, Bolivia, and I did climb 57 of the 56 of the 57 biggest peaks in the United States. There was 58, and the biggest, I don't mean highest, I mean what cartologists called the most prominent. That's 5,000 feet or more, base to top. And that's what a mountain is. It's prominence. And in Colorado, there's 13,000 feet are just bump on a hill. That's not prominence. So these were the biggest ones, and it was 58 until Mount St. Helens erupted, and blew its top and knocked off the top 1,400 feet.
Yeah,
and it no longer was a ultra prominent peak. It was, and there were two guys that climbed Mount St. Helena and Mount St. Helens, I'm sorry, and then went on to climb all the others. Okay, and they are the only people ever on Earth that could ever say they climbed them all, because there's no more. Okay, so this past weekend I went to climb this gorgeous peak, Mount Agassiz, and here's pictures of it, named after the good old Louis Agassiz. And it's in the Sierra Nevada mountains, about in the middle of the Sierras. Highest mountain range in the continental United States. Absolutely gorgeous place. And there was a forecast, as Randy mentioned, and the forecast is going to start snowing on Tuesday of this week. And so I was planning on starting to climb on Monday. So I moved my calendar around and, didn't show up to parties I've been invited to, and did all this stuff so I could leave on Friday. Left on Friday, went up there, climbed all the way up. And on Monday, I'm ready to climb the peak. So Sunday night, the wind thundered all night. And then Monday morning, it's blizzarding. And, you can climb it in a blizzard, I suppose. But you would have to brave these horrendous winds, hurricane winds, sub-zero wind chills, and then the snow. And you'll get the same view when you get to the top as putting a pillowcase over your head, putting a little flour in there and shaking it. And you say, that's the same view you'd get, and so you can stay home and avoid us. So I turned around and
well, we could put you in a meat freezer, to really, give you the full effect.
And then do it, and you'd be with a fan blowing on you.
Exactly.
So anyway, so I as we mentioned, these forecasts are not that reliable because it's just too complicated. The weather is too complicated, and so I do have some incredibly astonishingly beautiful pictures. At least I think they are, and we want to share them with you here. And I started out, I went through Yosemite National Park to get there because I live on the West Coast, and I drove through Yosemite, and you can see these pictures at sunset as this setting sun just caresses these huge granite cathedrals in the Sierra, one of the most beautiful places on earth. And look at these pictures they have using it right at sunset with the last glow of the sun shining on these things. And you can, and then I went on from there to hike into this place up the mountains up it's the Bishop Pass Trail up to Agassiz, and there's all this beautiful fall aspen colors in their fullest splendor. Okay, so I go in 5 miles, set up this base camp there, and so I'm going to take this opportunity to share these pictures with you here. Just look at these lakes that were in there, and the color, and these towering mountains, and the fall colors. I mean, this was just a place that's inspiring, and it's on a trail. You could do it, a little steep in places, but you could still walk it. And there's trails going every which way, lakes everywhere, beautiful lakes with forest around them. And so you can go out and do this now, and with this new equipment that you can buy, you can any of you can afford to go and do it, and it makes this whole experience something that's fun. Okay, you can't have fun if you're not comfortable. If you're cold,
Right.
You've got to be comfortable, and this new equipment that's available to you can make you comfortable, even in these horrendous situations. So first, I want to tell you about REI. REI is Recreational Equipment Incorporated. It's a nonprofit cooperative, and you can join it for $20, and you get a little card that says you're a member, and you can go online, rei.com, or go to one of their mini stores. They have 22 million members in the United States, and they're shooting to get 55 million Americans to join REI. And so you basically get wholesale at cost equipment, and you can do it online if you're not near one of the REIs. I live real near them, and I still do. You just go online, and it's on your porch the next day. One-time fee, you get at the end of the year, you get 10% off of everything you spent. You spend $1,000, you get a check for $100 at the end of the year. Okay. Now, if you don't plan on doing like I do and go up and climb up and hang off some summit somewhere, and you just want to go hike a little bit and hang out in the woods, you can still use REI to buy, small, hiking backpacks, boots, running shoes, gloves, sweaters, hats, clothing, sunglasses, hiking poles, snacks, dehydrated food, and so forth. It's a huge department store size stores everywhere. So let's go through some of it, which I have. I'll just share it with you. Stuff that will keep you safe and warm and comfortable. Let's start out with the bugs. You can buy these little things, and you open them up and you rub them on yourself, and you don't have to carry the jars in it, and they will keep the bugs off of you. And you can see from these tent pictures, which Ray's going to show you now, that I have 4 tents. I actually have 5 or 6 tents, but and 2 of them are tents that you can get a little titanium wood burning stove, and with a little stove jack in the tent, and you have a stove pipe that you roll out, stick through the roof, through this stove jack, and it goes down in the stove. All the smoke from the fire goes up this chimney, and you can sit there in your tent in the dark in the night and snuggle next to a warm fire, and it is centrally this experience that you have to.
So when that goes up through the tent, it doesn't melt the tent, or is the tent insulated right where it goes out, or how does that?
Good question, Randy. The stove jack has fireproof cloths in it. It's made out of fireproof materials. It's circular with little flat things on it. And you push the stove jack through that. It holds it, and it's fireproof.
Gotcha.
So the fire goes, the smoke goes up, and it gets hot up there, but it's not hot enough to and it's fireproof. And so there's no smoke in the tent. The smoke goes up. I have a 9-foot smoke thing, stovepipe, And so it puts the smoke way out there and the wind blows it away. There's nothing in the tent. It's perfectly, and then it turns, because titanium, it turns like a pink color when it gets hot. It glows and the heat comes out. And it's a confined space, small confined space in this tent, makes it gloriously wonderful. And you can see the flames lighting up the tent.
So can you
And
cook on top of this stove? I mean, can you put a little
you can melt stuff on it. And but I will share with you that I have a propane stove, not to be confused with a wood burning stove. And we'll do that one now. This little thing is called an in-reed. It's called a jet boil. Costs $100. Weighs nothing. Okay. And what you do is comes with a little thing of propane. And here's the burner. Take the lid off. Put this on. Screw on the propane. Turn the thing on. Put a cigarette lighter there. You're good to go. I even have a little stabilizer here that you can put on it. So if it's on an uneven, then you don't have to worry about tipping over. Weighs nothing. It will boil gallons of water in seconds. You put it in there, a cup of water, boiling water for your mug in 90 seconds. And I bring along.
So do you only need one propane tank then for a climb, or do you take more?
Oh yeah, I only take one, and it's weighs 4 ounces. Okay, and it will boil gallons of water. And you have your little mug here. That you open it up. You put your thing in there, and you can put this on it and drink out of it. And the whole thing weighs virtually nothing. And you can take snow and then as far as the water is concerned, they've done some studies recently, and they're really very encouraging. They show that 95% of all the lakes and streams in America are perfectly safe to drink as they are.
Really?
But I don't recommend you do that, because it's 5%. Why take the chance? Okay.
Yeah.
So you can get one of these little things, and here's the extra thing. And you scoop up water. Take the filter off, scoop up. It'll take a whole liter of water. And then you just turn around, put this back on it, and turn it upside down and squirt the water into your water bottle. And you have completely sterilized water. And you can then drink it safely, not to worry about giardia and all these other things. And then when you're done with the stove, back in the tap, and you're done. And it will boil it will boil this much water in 90 seconds or so.
Wow.
And you can use the water, from your coffee, your tea at night. You don't want caffeinated tea at night. You have your decaf tea at night. You have your coffee concoction. When I make this concoction, I've talked to you about it. Ecuadorian freeze-dried coffee, old-fashioned carnation malt, and Cho chocolate, which is this artisan chocolate company in Berkeley. They make this powdered chocolate. You throw it all in there and stir it up. And my climbing partners always say, "You're going to bring it, right? You're going to bring it," because they love it. And if you have 2 cups of it, I tell them you can fly to the summit. You don't even have to climb. It's so
fly around the mountain, come home, be done in a day.
And you're done. And what else? I was talking about some other stuff here. I just want to mention with the wood burning tent, wood burning stove, as glorious as it is, and I'm telling you, if you've been out there hiking all day and you're tired and you're hungry and you're thirsty and the wind's blowing, you want to get out of the wind and stretch out and everything, to go in and wrap up this tent in a hurry, it takes a second to wrap it up. And go in there and zip it up and lay a ground cloth and lay down next to the stove and put some pine cones in there and light it and have it crackle. It is one of the great experiences of life. To sit next to this hot stove in this cold environment, and it's absolutely wonderful. But you can't do it in a lot of places, okay? Mount Whitney has this big section of the Whitney. You can't do it there. And a lot of the desolation wilderness areas, or desolation is a specific wilderness. There's a lot of places in the High Sierra, like all the High Sierra above 10,400 foot elevation, you may not use those stoves. Why? Because they're trying to preserve the ecology there. And if all that wood gets burned, I need that wood to make
Really?
soil. And so it's a good rule. You can't burn, no campfires and no wood stoves above 10,500 feet. Well, that's a lot of area. I was above 10,000. I camped at 10,800. And so it's a good rule. So you can't take the stoves everywhere. Now I have non-wood burning stoves, and I have a picture of the one here. I just bought this one, which you'll see right here. And this is a Mountain Hardware, Himalayan style mountaineering Four Seasons tent, meaning it's designed for blizzards and high winds and stuff like that. And there's several features about it that I can't quite see here, but one is that it's a steep A-frame structure designed to slough off snow. So if it snows, I've been up there and had snow 6 feet on me. And it buries that you have to get out and dig it out. This will withstand huge snow loads, just sloughs it off because of the shape of it. The other thing is it's made with incredibly strong poles that can withstand hurricane winds. And so that's another feature that is good about
So
it.
what holds it down? You must have fasteners or strings or put rocks.
It's held down by a series of stakes. Okay, you get these super light aluminum stakes with a stake, loop that you put it through, and you get a stake. You get a big rock, and you pound it into the ground all the way in, and you put 4 or 6 of them. You can even put more than that, and it's going nowhere. With those stakes in there, and I put big rocks on top of that, so that it's anchored. It's solid, not going anywhere. And this particular tent has an option to have this vestibule, which you see here, attached to it, his own tent pole that makes it out. And the vestibule gives you a completely separate room that attaches to it. And this room is a great place to conveniently put your gear, okay? Otherwise, you have to leave it out. And if it snows, it's buried. I once lost the stove because it snowed 4 or 5 feet. And
This was the picture I was going to superimpose, like a little baby grand piano, along the back wall, a little something that you brought along in your backpack, the ultralight piano.
That's with these kitchen sink and the microwave that I bring.
Yeah, exactly. In the sauna and the steam bath.
Yeah. So, but the tent weighs 2 pounds. I mean, that's
amazing.
And it's 1.6 for the stakes and the tent poles. And so the extra of the vestibule hardly weighs anything. It's less than a pound.
How much is the backpack that you're carrying? How much does that weigh altogether when you get it all?
Well, in my case, because I lack the self-discipline, not to bring the kitchen sink, mine was over 50, it was somewhere between 50 and 60.
Really? Oh my goodness.
A lot of weight. It was a huge amount of weight. I wasn't going that far, 5 miles. I figured I could do it and just go slowly. And I could have trimmed it down to 40, probably.
Well, what makes the extra weight? If your tent and all that's light, what else is in there? Clothes or
Well, I have a huge sleeping bags. I'm going to show you here. I have this gigantic 0-degree sleeping bag. I have a liner. I have 3 down jackets. I have this long john underwear I bring to put on at night. I have down pants. I have these overalls. I have a shell, like a rain shell. It's for snow and rain. And I have water and food and a ground cloth and a lot of emergency equipment. I have a first aid kit and some batteries. I have to take 3 batteries so that I can keep my phone going, my hearing aids and my inReach and what else do I mean, and that all adds up, and
I can imagine. I'm glad I asked because it all makes sense. I was just wanted to have the rest of the inventory.
Well, I could trim it down. I could pass on the liner. I could maybe, I could cut back on and I had a big heavy second pack. I could have taken a much lighter pack. I wanted the other one so I could stuff it full of stuff because I like to take all this emergency. I have this. I've been stuck out in mountains sometimes overnight for various reasons, and I want to be sure if I'm stuck out there that I have emergency overnight stuff, and I can get and I have a bunch of stuff that I bring where I have this it's a aluminum type metal blanket, and then I have this it's a pouch. It's like a sleeping bag. It weighs nothing, and you just crawl in those things. And then I have this storm headlamp, this really powerful headlamp with lithium batteries. I mean, it's a searchlight. You get this thing, it just goes out, and you can just walk with your sticks, and there's no problem. And and I have found a way. This is a super light tent light, and you can see it there in my pictures as hanging from the ceiling.
Right.
And I just reach up at night and flip it on. And there it goes.
Yeah, daytime doesn't look too stunning,
Well, it's not a bright light, but at night when your eyes are accustomed to the darkness, and you're in your tent, and it's hanging there just over where you're going to be working or sleeping, it is enough. Now I have if I need something, I put the headlamp on, but this is a super light little thing with a lithium battery that will give you enough light to see, okay? Because you're in pitch dark there, and you're in the tent, and so that what else can I tell you about? There's a lot of other fun stuff here. Okay,
listen, Robert. While we're getting organized for the second part, we have to take a little break here.
Okay.
We're gonna come back. We got a little bit of music now that we're gonna be sharing on our podcast at this point in time, because we're gonna have a holiday music festival with all of our music being written by All the Good Things Life Orchestra. And the orchestra joined me this morning, creating some beautiful pieces for Thanksgiving and kids growing up in Freeport and baby boomer music and things that we all can relate to. And it has been quite fun, quite remarkable. So we're going to have a holiday show on, I think we're going to do it so people have something to listen to on Thanksgiving morning, so that get everybody, can be an hour-long, maybe more, show with some music. But the music coming up right now, since we're both from Freeport, is called simply Christmas in Freeport. It's a look back at the days when we were growing up as kids. So as that takes us out, we'll be back in a couple minutes. Stay tuned. We're going to hear, this is just going to be a short clip, not going to be the full thing. Robert will be right back telling us then what happened when he got to the mountain, and how he got up and how he got down, and it's quite exciting. So we'll be right back.
Snow on the rooftops, a glow in the town, old memories smiling as the sun settles down. Through the cold and the miles, they're finding their way, coming home to the laughter where hearts always stay. They always come home through the wind and the gray, down the old country road where the porch lights still play, for the warmth of the fire, for the turkey and grace, for a hug from old Graham and her smile on each face. No matter how far that they roam, they always come home. tales
you
and
enjoyed that
gravy.
little break.
Love everywhere.
Robert,
The children
50,
are
60-pound backpack. I don't know. I think he probably has a really nice bed that he leaves to go sleep on the side of a mountain, but I know that the experiential experience that he gets while he goes to the mountain is really invigorating, and he's been doing it all his life. So, Robert, we had this 50, 60-pound backpack that we just unfolded. We got stoves and sleeping bags we know about. We know you are well prepared. You've got your concoction of coffee and dried food and all these good things that tuck you in at night. So continue on. What happened on this last climb? What happened?
So just to follow up with the tent thing here, I have had, lots of tents in the past, and if they're not designed a certain way with special ventilation on them, your body moisture will condense on the tops and drip on you. You'll be frosting and everything. So the new tents are designed so that that doesn't happen. And here it is, you'll see these little vents up there, and it can take, drenching rain, deep snow, it holds the snow, sheds it. You got great ventilation. You don't get frost or water dripping. And so you also note here with this tent, you have this separate room. And I have a picture here you can see of what you use this other room to put your gear in. Okay. And you put all kinds of things you can put in there, boots and and they're accessible to you. And I put it in a little ground cloth around it, curled up, so it completely seals it off on the outside. And you can open up the tent. It's a separate door to go into this little room, cook in there, have all your stuff there, and then have an uncluttered room. My grandson calls it the snuggle room. You can go back in there and zip it up, and you're completely protected in this special snuggle room. We got plenty and it had this tent light I showed you. And so the first device that I want to talk to you about, and you and I have talked about this before, is an inReach. And I wouldn't go up there without this. I mean, this is a little itty bitty thing here,
Right.
and this goes up to the Iridium satellites, and it enables you. It does a whole bunch of things. And it costs $400. 10% off at REI, so you get 360. Okay. And you don't need this if you go out where there's cell coverage, and you're not out at some place. But if you're out past cell coverage and something happens to you, you're in trouble. And having something like this, it has a number of features. Number one is it has a tracking feature. So I can put on the tracking, and then I hook it up here on my shoulder. And as I go along, my wife can follow me. Every 10 minutes sends up a burp, and it shows a spot on a map. And so you open up the trail map, and she has a link at home, and it shows me ... going. She can follow me all the way to the top. But if anything happens to me, I have a stroke or heart attack, I stop, and then it keeps sending, and so that's the spot to look. Okay, and so it's this thing. They're all over the world, and they save lives every day. So you got the tracking feature. You also have a texting feature where I can lay in my tent, Bluetooth it to my phone, and have lovey-dovey back and forth with my wife at bedtime. And it has weather forecasts that you can request the weather forecast from Garmin, costs you $1.50, and it will send you an algorithmic weather forecast to your exact location and exact altitude. This is what's going to happen in your spot there. And that's really worth it. But the real issue, the real trick here is this SOS on the side. How does it go here?
Yeah, hold it down in front of you. There you go. Up a little bit. Just touch.
See
There
the
you go.
SOS, the red SOS there.
Yep.
You push that red SOS button, it burps up to the satellites and goes to the Houston International Emergency Rescue Coordination Center. This big 6-story building with people speak 200 languages from all over the world. And you register with them so they know who I am, my color, my tent, my medical history, my wife's phone number, and know all that stuff. It's right in the burp that comes up. And so they they immediately come back to me and they says, this is Garmin, or what's the nature of, like a 911 call. What's the nature of your emergency? So you tell them I broke my leg, I can't get down, I need help. I need a rescue. They have a database of all search and rescue jurisdiction that that you are. So they call the local SAR, the search and rescue. In this case, it would be the Inyo County SAR, and and so they tell them what. Here's a guy. He's a 76-year-old geezer laying in on the up there, and he needs rescue on the Bishop Crest Trail at this location. And this is a huge step forward of what in the old days you didn't have cell phones, and what you had, somebody had to go down and go to town and round up some people. Take days to get in there. And as you know from medical stuff, you ever ask a doctor, it's the first 2 hours, and they call it the golden hour, golden 2 hours. If somebody's injured, they're bleeding, they're going into shock, they're in the cold up there. If they don't get out quickly, they're not going to make it. And so this thing can get them to you. First of all, you have the helicopters, and they started out about in the 70s when the helicopters would come, and that cut the rescue down to nothing. And Yosemite has a fleet of them pulling these people off the and they can have them in a hospital in half an hour. I mean, it's just amazing what they can do with it. Now, if it's storming, that's another thing about the storm, and they can't do it in the storm. Okay, so they have to send people on foot in there. That makes it much longer to get in there. But still, they know where you are, and the people don't realize, and who have not been up in these places and gone in searches, it's this vast area out there. And if you don't know where a person is, you could spend days looking for them. You don't know which trail, and so especially if they're not on a trail, they're out on a mountain. I mean, it's mostly search and recovery of bodies, not search and with this right here, it's all search.
So if you had something happen to you, do you get a bill? At some point in time for the helicopter and the people and all that?
That's a good question. They do not bill you if it's a legitimate accident, if it's not your own gross stupidity. And sometimes people do things so stupid that they do bill them for it. But they don't. In Europe, you can buy helicopter insurance, rescue insurance for $100. Okay.
Wow.
And people really are promiscuous about it. I mean, if they sprain their ankle or something, let's just call the helicopter and ride. So they come, they get you. It's not search, it's only rescue. They know right where you are within 2 feet to go get you. People's lives, they publish this thing, they send it to you as an email or promotion. They save lives every single day. Lives are saved because of this. And also, one other thing, it has an avalanche warning. I was with a guided group once on Mount Whitney and a big storm coming, and all of a sudden everybody's inReachers start going off, saying avalanche, avalanche. So we pack up immediately and flee, but without that, it tells you, so, all right. The texting feature, SOS button, and how it works, and they get back to you, helicopter such and such, en route, your ETA 30 minutes, it's amazing. So I talked to you about the headlamp with the lithium batteries. I showed it to you.
Right. So the questions I have. So we've got all the material. You're ready to go, and you're going up this last week, and you went to a base camp. Is that where it started snowing, or how did that?
Well, I packed into what I call a base camp, and a base camp is where I put my tent, and from there I go, leaving the camp up, and the heavy stuff. I have a summit pack and summit emergency gear, the inReach, and a headlamp in there, and that kind of thing, and my sticks and extra clothing. That's it. Okay, and
so you were expecting. You went to this camp where you have your tent set up. You stayed that night there?
Yes.
Okay. So then the next day you were going to go up the
to the
mountain.
summit. I had my summit pack already packed.
And
I
then
had
it began snowing when?
It began snowing sometime in the course of the night, early before it was light. And this, wait a minute, I said that the mountain gods didn't get the memo. It wasn't supposed to snow till tonight. What's it doing here now? And all night the wind. I mean, it was screeching in the little trees. So the base camp is not a particular site. You just go up and find something. And so I went up there 5 miles in and went by this gorgeous lake and went around the lake and over, and I found this little flat spot up on a little plateau over the lake, in the forest, with a spectacular view. And you can see it here, and you can see the lake behind it. And this is just a little inlet of the lake. The lake goes on for another mile or so. So I put what's called a footprint. This is like a ground cloth, very thick, very designed to, cactuses and stobs and can't get through it. And then you put the tent on top of that. And then you put up the tent and you put the vestibule, and I put a blue ground tarp, in like a cluster, put all the gear on that, then go in, zip up and go in the tent, blow up I have a 3-inch plush, and you see a picture of it here with me holding it up. It's 3.5 or 4 inches thick, and it's insulated to beat the bed. I mean, you feel like you're sleeping on an electric blanket. So and I have a closed foam pad you can see below it there. So you have the closed foam pad. Well, first time you have your footprint, then the tent floor, then the closed foam, and then the blow up tent, and then you have your sleeping bag with your liner. I have so it's like a linen liner. You get inside of that. It keeps the moisture in, and it makes the sleeping bag 10 degrees warmer.
So you're sleeping though in your outer gear. I mean, like your coat or you're not sleeping. You're sleeping in. Go ahead.
I wore these mountaineering overalls, that are, impenetrable, and they're really, and they're insulated. I take them off, and I put on what I call long johns. They're pants and top. They're bone dry because sometimes you sweat going up. And then I put on 2 small down jackets, one after the other, and I put on down pants. Okay. And then I put on a neck warmer, and like putting pull over my neck. And then I put one of those, knit hats over my ears. And then I take the rest of it and stuff it into one of the carry bags and make a pillow out of it and lay back, and I'm in heaven.
So were you aware that it was snowing through the night?
No, it didn't start to snow until sometime, I don't know, maybe after 3 in the morning.
But the wind was blowing. You're all
It
snuggled.
was screeching. I mean, it was 60 miles an hour, hurricane.
Did you get any sleep?
Well, I was so tired I slept. It kept me up for a bit to start with. And then I hear it screeching and screeching, and so then I wake up and it's starting to get light, and I hear this tinkle 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 sound that I'm now familiar with. It's snow hitting the tent, and little ice crystals hitting the tent. I said, wait a minute, that's for tomorrow. It can't be now. The mountain gods promised me it wasn't going to snow till tomorrow. I'm going to take off and climb this mountain today. So I unzip and I go into the vestibule and unzip the one that goes outside and look out, and snow everywhere, pouring down, blizzarding snow. I thought, oh no, I gotta get the hell out of here. And so, I start packing everything up in the tent, and I get it all packed up. And when I finally got up, it almost blew the tent away when I was trying to put it away. The wind is just screeching, and snow's flying, and there's a couple of risks of it. It was too early in the season for avalanches, but ordinarily in the winter, snow like that is an avalanche risk. But the biggest risk of it is the visibility. You can't see where you're going. You can't see 50 yards in front of you. Now, that's one of the features that I also take with me is I have on my cell phone, I have 2 apps that show the trails. I have All Trails and I have Gaia, which are these apps that are free, and you can go in and you look at them, and it's like following instruments airplane when I was flying in the clouds. You got something to tell you where to go, and and you hold this in your hand if you can't see the ground. And sometimes when the snow comes, it covers the trail. There's no trail, it's just snow. Or you're on rock sometimes out in areas. And when I came down from climbing Mount Williamson, there's quite a ways along these cliffs and rocks. There's not a shred of grass or anything. And so there's the quote trail is not it's a route. It's not a trail. And so you go along, you can't see anything in the dark, and you can go the wrong way. And I did. I had to back up and get, and follow it out to tell me which way it is. Because if you go the wrong way, you end up on a cliff. And so that's one of the risks is the loss of visibility that when a big storm comes in. So I get up and I pack everything, and that's why you don't want to be up on the mountain. It's too hard to find the routes. You can see, well, it's similar to Mount Tyndall behind me. You could see the pictures of it here. I had three beautiful pictures here of Agassiz. And you can see that there's quite a bit of route finding on this. You got to zig and zag a little bit and get the right place. If you don't get the right place, you're going to end up on a cliff, and you can't do it. So you have to know where you're going. But the wonderful thing about these programs is they track you. So when you get ready to turn around, you got a big red thing to follow, that tells you this is the route you followed up here. And if you go off of it, it gives you a big warning, ding, you lost the trail. And so it tells you, oh, I got to go back. And when I was coming down, there was a fork and I went the wrong way. And bing, tells me, and I go right back up and take the other way. I wasn't paying attention and go on down that way.
So how many miles did you have to walk down to get back to your car?
About 5 miles. I wasn't that far in. I mean, some of these places I'm going in, it's 11 and a half miles to the top of Whitney. I'm going to do that in 2 weeks. And that's further. But the base camp is in Whitney. It's about the same as here, a little five-ish, 5.5. Is at 12,000 feet. And you go there, you put your tent up, you anchor it down, and you get everything ready, and you get up and you're packed, and you have your breakfast and your coffee, and you zip up the tent and you take off for the summit. And that was what I was going to do. And I expected to have picked it off because it's a climbable peak. I had a partner.
Robert, when you got to your car, we had about 3 minutes left. I mean, this hour went crazy fast, which I knew it would. So we're going to split up the last 90 seconds. So you make it back to your car. Was there snow around your car, or was that low enough that it was? There
was scattering, just a little scattering down that low. In the Sierras, every 1,000 feet you go down, it's less and less. And you get down the desert, there was nothing, So I get in my car, drive down to Bishop, which is at 4,000 feet. And I was 10-8, so it's a way, way, way down to there. And then I went on, and I was going to go back to Yosemite. They closed it. And they close that thing like that when the snow comes, and they put up chain controls on 50 and 80 over the Sierras. So I turned around and went down the desert and went over to Tehachapi down by Bakersfield, way down there, where it's a 4,000-foot pass, and then went over to Interstate 5 and went home on Interstate 5 to avoid, didn't get a single slurp flurry the whole way back.
So just to enlighten us, you survived. You didn't make it all the way to the top, which is fine. We're glad that little Robert survives his, one more exploratory at his young age of 38 or 9, whatever the heck you are. And we're getting ready to go to Mount Whitney, but Mount Whitney, obviously the weather forecasts are perfect there, and it doesn't ever snow. So no, I probably am lying about that. You're going to run into more snow, right? I mean,
Whitney's 14,500 feet, so it's about 600 feet higher than Agassiz, and it's 100 miles south of there, and it's a little more desertish down there, but still. When I say I'm going to climb it, weather permitting, and so if there's a storm, I'm not, we'll cancel it or we'll turn back because, for the reasons I mentioned earlier, it's not going to be worth it. So I'm going to give it, I have climbed it, Randy, 3 times in November. And I got lucky. I got these Indian summer periods and it was clear. And I hiked up there. I did it all 3 times solo. And I got a partner this time, and I, hiked up to the summit and held up the thing and took the pictures and all that stuff, and then came back down. So I'm hoping it's going to be a weather thing here because it's not you could ride a horse to the top on the trail I'm going to take. There's a lot of different routes. Some of them are, but this one is the geezer route, I call it.
Good.
It's a trail and you could ride a horse to the top.
You give me a trail, or that's a trial, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Good Lord, I live through your through your eyeballs and your storytelling, and this is Coffee and Tidbits, and we have another show that we're not going to talk about. We're keeping under wraps that Robert is unfolding, and it's more traditional that it'll be on his other channel, things people believe that just ain't true. We're going to unfold a pretty interesting item that's going on in the world, so stay tuned for that. I think we're going to do that next week, right, Robert?
Yep, we're going to talk about the incredible things that are going on in the courts today that have caused it to plunge to the historically far below it has ever been before in terms of the amount of confidence the American people have in the court system.
Yeah, we're also going to talk about people checking out right now, and they're just tired, they're exhausted, they're not even turning on the news, and that percentage is getting bigger every day. And so we're going to have those two topics that we'll talk about next week. But for Robert Mills, who we nurtured him off the hill, we talked him down safely, we got him down to where we live, and we thank you, Robert, for another great day living through the adventure of your eyes and your storytelling and incredible wit and wisdom at your amazing life that you lead. And we thank you for that once again. We really appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Look forward to next week. Next forward to telling you about my Whitney climb.
Well, yeah, we've got a lot to talk about.
That's a couple of weeks after that. That's right.
Well, we got a big full schedule between now and Thanksgiving, and then I'll tell you what, I'm very, very excited about all the different people we're bringing onto our show. So everybody listen. Thank you, Robert, and for our wonderful listeners out there that are finding us all over our different platforms. This is Old Uncle Randy, and never forget, as my grandfather said, always leave a better footprint because you never know who's out there looking, if you know what I mean. Anyway, this is a production of the Distillery Channel Media, LLC, and Live Eco Style, LLC, and send us your comments. You can go to info@liveecostyle.com or randy@thedistillerychannel.com. And we love to hear all the comments. We answer them. And you can find us everywhere you want. So again, out there, be safe. Robert, be healthy. Have fun. We'll talk to you next week. And again, old Uncle Randy, have a great weekend. Bye-bye.